It's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the headlines. The South Korean foreign minister continues his meetings with North Korea's allies, including Russia, to win their support for efforts in punishing Pyongyang, while the regime's traditional big brother China announces plans to ban more export items to the reclusive state. 2 more fishing boats were seized and arrest warrants were issued for 6 Chinese sailors who retaliated violently yesterday. The actions are part of Korea's ongoing crackdown on illegal fishing in neutral waters. The investigation into the mass shooting in Orlando is yielding new pieces, but the true motive behind the shooter's actions is still unclear, and there are still more questions than answers. South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se had some stern words for North Korea on its attitude toward nuclear development. He also vowed greater cooperation with Moscow in dealing with Pyongyang. Kwon So-wha starts us off with this message from Seoul's top diplomat during his first visit to Russia.
South Korean Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se said it's a shame North Korea, which is obsessed with its nuclear weapons development, is continuing its anachronistic acts. He was addressing a bilateral economic forum held in St. Petersburg Tuesday local time. He added North Korea cannot turn back time and will have to realize that the international community is turning its back on the regime. The minister said the world is undergoing revolutionary events, the normalization of ties between the U.S. and Cuba, President Park Geun-hye's first visit to Iran, his own trip to Cuba, and Myanmar's transition from a military government to a civilian one. And he expressed his hope that the winds of change will blow into the Korean peninsula too. Yoon also sought to expand the channels of cooperation between Seoul and Moscow.
During the bilateral foreign ministers' meeting, Minister Sergei Lavrov expressed high expectations for South Korea, calling it a key partner in Asia policies and development in the Russian Far East.
He told reporters that Russia has recently begun referring to South Korea as a key partner and that its amicable position on its traditional ally North Korea has changed. Yoon said that in talks earlier this week, he and his counterpart Sergei Lavrov barely touched on the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD to South Korea, which Russia and China oppose, implying that Russia is more focused on curbing the North's nuclear ambitions. Kwon So-wha, Arirang News.
China announced plans to ban the export of certain items to North Korea. The materials could be used to help Pyongyang build up its nuclear, chemical, and missile arsenals. Connie Kim fills us in on Beijing's follow-through on its commitment to UN sanctions against its longtime ally.
China's Ministry of Commerce has expanded the list of items banned for export to North Korea in an effort to prevent Pyongyang building more weapons of mass destruction. The list of dual-use goods, products that have both civilian and military use, includes 40 items including magnetic materials, laser welding equipment, and chemicals that could be used to produce chemical warfare agents. The ministry said the new list is in line with UN sanctions adopted in March as punishment for Pyongyang's nuclear test early this year. China, which has backed North Korea for more than 6 decades, had also announced its first round of trade restrictions on the North in April, including a ban on imports of gold and exports of rocket fuel. The new measures are being seen as a result of Washington's efforts to put more pressure on North Korea.
Washington's so-called secondary boycott that would sanction companies engaging in business with North Korea and its designation of Pyongyang as a primary money laundering concern indirectly adds the burden on the North. It is inevitable for Beijing to come up with measures to pressure its ally.
Chinese President Xi Jinping told his U.S. counterpart that Beijing will fully implement the UN sanctions on the North during economy strategy talks with Washington last week. There is also speculation that the International Atomic Energy Agency's recent claim that the North appears to have reopened a plant to produce weapons-grade plutonium from spent fuel may have made it hard for Beijing to disregard the pressure from Washington. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye sat down with General Vincent Brooks, the new commander of the U.S. Forces Korea and South Korea U.S. Combined Forces Command. At the meeting on Wednesday marking General Brooks' inauguration, the two vowed to maintain a strong defense readiness posture to ensure peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. General Brooks is the first African-American valedictorian of West Point. Before taking his current post, he served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He succeeded Curtis Scaparrotti, who is now the commander of the U.S. European Command, at the end of April. South Korea's political parties celebrated the 16th anniversary of the landmark declaration signed by the two Koreas on June 15th, year 2000. As expected, the ruling and opposition parties had different views on how to approach the current deadlock between Seoul and Pyongyang. Kim Young-gil has their different takes on the matter.
The ruling minority party on Wednesday visited Osan Air Force Base south of Seoul to commemorate the June 15th joint declaration between the two Koreas, aimed at bringing peace to the Korean peninsula. The visit is seen as a move to highlight the party's security credentials amid North Korea's continued provocations. The main opposition Minju Party of Korea, which can trace its political roots back to the architect of the declaration, then President Kim Dae-jung, called for dialogue to ease tensions between the two Koreas.
It's urgent that we hold dialogue between the two Koreas, at least for the sake of humanitarian aid. We must come up with a groundbreaking strategy to bring about a change in South and North relations and to mark the 16th anniversary of the June 15th joint declaration.
The interim leader also said that even though the government has joined the international effort to impose sanctions on North Korea, it still needs to make an effort to restart inter-Korean talks. He was speaking at Imjinggak Pavilion in Paju, near the border with North Korea, to call attention to the need for both security and peace. The minor opposition People's Party, which gathered at the National Assembly, also urged the government to opt for dialogue with the North over pressure on the regime.
At the end of the North Korea sanctions lies the negotiating table. There have never been any examples of a regime being toppled because of external sanctions.
Co-leader Chun Jang-bae said the party must be at the forefront of restoring the spirit of the joint declaration to foster reconciliation and economic cooperation. The opposition bloc said the South Korean government should prepare for potential economic and cultural exchanges with Pyongyang once the sanctions are lifted, no matter how far into the future that might be. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Illegal Chinese fishing activities increasing by the day in Korean waters, even with more drastic actions taken to prevent them. Today, the Korean government stepped up the efforts a notch, launching a special task force team to rein in such activities. Kim Hye-sung has the details.
Amid an increasing and alarming number of illegal Chinese fishing boats operating Korean territory, Korea's Coast Guard launched a special task force team to crack down on illegal Chinese fishing boats on Wednesday. The task force, which is under the supervision of the Ministry of Public Safety and Security, will deploy 4 warships, 8 speedboats, and 1 helicopter to patrol waters near the northern limit line in the West Sea. The task force joins efforts with a special military police team launched last Friday by the Ministry of National Defense. The military police, which includes Coast Guard and UN Comined Forces, cracked down on 2 35-ton illegal Chinese vessels on Tuesday. According to officials, the illegal Chinese fishermen were handed over to the Incheon Coast Guard Wednesday morning. According to the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, illegal Chinese boats are causing harm in the domestic fishing industry, with the local crab catch between January and April this year plummeting 70% from the previous year. With the number of illegal Chinese fishing boats growing by the day, combined efforts by the Korean government are likely to intensify. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
Korea's job market continues to exhibit few signs of improvement, with the youth unemployment rate remaining stubbornly high. The outlook for the coming months is not so bright either, as the government pushes through an overhaul of ailing industries. Hwang Jae looks beyond the discouraging digits.
Korea's youth jobless rate for the month of May hit an all-time high. For 4 straight months leading up to that, Statistics Korea says the unemployment rate for young people ages 15 to 29 had been hitting record highs in each month from previous years. And the trend is unlikely to improve anytime soon.
The youth employment rate was at 42.7%, which is still not that high. So unemployment has been on an upward trend as well. This has been the trend for a while, and I believe it will continue for some time.
Experts say one of the reasons behind the bleak outlook is a government-led restructuring drive that will result in inevitable job losses, and not just for young people, but in all age groups.
If restructuring proceeds in industries from shipbuilding and shipping to steel, it's natural that massive job losses will occur, as job cuts are the focal point of the restructuring plan, although the government will try to minimize the layoffs.
Local economies are already being hit by the effects of the corporate overhaul. Gyeongsangnam-do province, which has a high concentration of the country's shipyards, saw its jobless rate rise by 1.2 percentage points, even as the country's unemployment rate edged down. Still, employment conditions across the country continue to remain sluggish, with the number of new jobs added last month standing at the 200,000 level for a second straight month. With that, the government is planning to take action to counter any downside risks that could further slow the economy and cast a cloud over the job market. And speculation is mounting that the government might include a budget supplement in its economic policy plan for the second half of this year. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
Moving on, the head of Lotte Group apologized for causing concern amid the recent embezzlement scandal surrounding the conglomerate. This follows a series of raids on the group's offices in Korea, with prosecutors looking into allegations the group created slush funds through real estate transactions and internal trading. Here's Lee Min-young with the updates.
Shin Dong-bin, the head of Lotte Group, offered an apology for the slush fund scandal engulfing the group, which is Korea's fifth largest conglomerate.
I'm truly sorry for causing so much concern.
Shin is currently on business in the United States and made the remarks to reporters at a groundbreaking ceremony for a joint venture chemical plant in Louisiana on Tuesday local time. This is the first time he has spoken to the media since prosecutors in Korea launched an investigation into the group for allegations of embezzlement and other financial irregularities. Shin also vowed to fully cooperate with the ongoing investigation, which involved raids on several Lotte offices this week. The investigation and ongoing scandal surrounding Lotte Group have prompted it to postpone its plan for an initial public offering plan for Hotel Lotte. The IPO plan was part of reforms designed to improve the transparency of the group's murky corporate management structure, following a bitter power struggle between Shin Dong-bin and his elder brother Shin Dong-ju. The Lotte chairman said, however, that he would press ahead with the reform plan.
I will try to push ahead with it so that we can see some results by the end of the year.
Meanwhile, the investigation is moving forward. On Tuesday, prosecutors stormed 10 business units, including Lotte Engineering and Construction and Lotte Chemical, as well as 5 other locations in a second raid on Lotte Group. Prosecutors said they are also planning to track the group's real estate transactions for evidence of misconduct, including embezzlement and breach of trust. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
Turning now to the ongoing investigations into the deadliest massacre in modern American history. As more details surface, the perpetrators' true motives get even muddier. The FBI is seeking to charge the Orlando attacker's wife for possibly knowing about his gruesome plan, but there are also reports that put a question mark over the killer's sexuality. Hwang Ho-jun brings us the latest.
What drove Omar Mateen to murder 49 people in cold blood remains unclear. Witnesses are telling U.S. media that Mateen, who also injured more than 50 people in the attack, was a regular at the Pulse nightclub, a gay bar in downtown Orlando. Moreover, there are claims the killer used a location-based gay dating app called Jacked for over a year. In an interview with CNN, the killer's father rejected speculation about his son's sexuality.
Well, as long as I know, and all these news came from the news, and I don't believe that he was whatever you call it. So,
Jacked was unable to confirm whether Mateen had an account, as signing up for the basic version of the app can be done anonymously. A flood of new details have emerged since the night of the massacre. It has now been confirmed that Mateen, a U.S. citizen born to Afghan immigrants, called 911 swearing allegiance to Islamic State as he took hostages in the club's bathroom. The FBI also stated that Mateen had been under investigation for about 10 months as he expressed support for Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah in 2013. It has also emerged that Mateen had worked as an armed security officer since 2007. However, with the speculation about his sexuality still swirling, some say it's too soon to jump to the conclusion that it was a religious terror attack against the LGBT community. Also surfacing are reports that Mateen's wife is under the scrutiny of the FBI, possibly facing charges for being connected to the mass shooting. Citing sources, reports say Noor Salman may have had prior knowledge of her husband's plan as she was seen with him when he bought ammunition. She's also said to have told investigators that she had dropped her husband off at the nightclub on occasions prior to the attack. The FBI is trying to determine the level of Salman's involvement before deciding their next step. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
These are the stories we're following at this hour. For more, tune in at 10 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.